So when you run a business, there's constant changes and you have to constantly learn how to learn. So you go to the university, therefore to learn how to learn. Obviously, you learn a specific subject, but more important, I think, is to learn to adapt. The idea as well, which is interesting, is you don't, you should not believe that you know everything, because then that makes you someone that it's going to become sort of obsolete because you're not going to want to learn more. So curiosity is very important and wanting to learn more is very important. We have many alumni that end up being successful people. One of them is Don Hahn, who created music for Disney, and he created The Lion King, The Beauty and the Beast. So these are very famous songs. And he was an undeclared major for a while until he went into music and minor in graphics. And so that was in the 70s. But he was asked in 2016, what did CSUN do for you? The university gave me a strong foundation and provided me with sufficient space to discover my strengths and weaknesses. So here again, someone talking about their strengths and weaknesses. So what you learn in marketing to do the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats is a skill that you need to have, not only to run a business, but I think to run your life. Now, I'm looking at Pack. I just want to do a little touch. I've noticed some very good points, and it's actually interesting to look at what you're discussing. And so I really commend you for the quality of the comments that you're putting and the quality of the questions that you're putting. This was the last week. Taylor Beveridge had a very good comment about Kylie Jenner, who has her own cosmetic company, and also what happens when you're a celebrity and you go into business. And people commented on that. So there were some interesting comments that I noted from Tree Tran and from Chris Cortez. Most celebrities use their fame to dupe their fans and followers into buying off brands or mediocre products. So Tree was very critical about being a celebrity and starting your own business. But then there was Chris Cortez that was sort of giving a view that it's more helpful when you're someone who has followers and fans, because you can get to make some sales faster because people are your fans are going to want to buy your product and they know about you, so you can get attention and they will want to buy something that you are recommending. But there's some risks because those celebrity life, sometimes these people have their own brand, and their own brand can go sour as well and get in trouble, which will eventually affect the product that they're supporting. So there is pros and cons. Personally, I think there's mostly pros because people don't really evaluate much of what they buy. Most of the purchases that they make are emotional, and they're very emotional when it comes to famous people. And that could be the single reason why would they want to buy something, because it's associated with someone famous. And in some respect, they try to transfer this image of the celebrity to the product, to themselves. And so most people are very influenced by celebrities. Uh, it was a time where the major influencers were only celebrities. And now we live in a time where influencers come from all kinds of origins and sources, and celebrities are not the only one. And you can see influencers are used everywhere, and to some extent, they have too much power in influencing people. The last thing we did was the STP, segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And now we're moving into what's called the 4Ps: product, price, promotion, and place. But I wanted to do a little recap before we move on. So to succeed in business, I believe that you have to identify opportunities. Most of the time, you don't really work from opportunities, but you work from ideas. Ideas are okay as long as they're supported by opportunities. Once these ideas are supported by opportunities, the weight, the the strengths of these opportunities really make for the quality of the ideas. And then you're going to try to implement these opportunities into the strategies. At the same time, is you're going to have to be competitive. In other words, you have to differentiate yourself from your competitor. And the best way to differentiate yourself from the competitor is to think about the concept of just noticeable difference. What is it that you do that is different? And it's seen as different and sufficiently better than your competitors, just better enough than your competitors that they would want to buy from you. So you do research to identify the opportunities, you do research to identify the just noticeable difference, and then you go back and forth doing this, but at the same time you think about who is this for? So I want to do a new product, but who is it for? So um, you will want to do a new product only if you know who you're doing it for. So most of the time, the problem is businesses think that to be competitive, they have to do a new product. And uh, it, it's true that to be competitive, you have to do a new product. But if you do a new product thinking that's what's going to make you competitive, you may be taking a big risk here because you have to make sure that your product is for someone. So at that time, you have to identify who is this product for and what do they want and why would they want this product. And then once you identify all of this, then you can make the product and make it for the people that you think you're making it for. So here again, you need to go back to research and identify who are your targets, your image, your identity, the meaning of your brand. So research is essentially maybe the first thing or the second thing that you do, because the first thing could be that you have an idea. The second thing for sure is that you're doing research to see if your idea is supported by opportunities. You're doing research to identify how much differences you're going to have with your competitors, how much benefits, improvements, innovation you're going to bring compared to your competitors. And you're doing research for that. But who is this for? For the consumers. So you see the opportunities for who, which type of consumers, and so forth. So this is the basic concept of marketing in order to adapting as much as you can to your environment. And so adapting is learning how to survive. Learning how to survive is understanding your market. Understanding your market is doing research. So to be successful is you need to do research. To be successful is you need to be a leader, which means that you need to take stand, you need to show a path. You need to get people to follow you and believe in what you're doing, and eventually this is how you run this business and you can be successful. So that's summarize everything that we've discussed so far. Now we're moving into the 4Ps. So the 4Ps again: product, price, place, promotion. We're only going to look at products today. So the product is composed of many different elements. So we talk about the marketing mix, which is made of 4 elements. Now we can also talk about the product mix, which is made of several elements. Another thing that I want to say, and it's going to be a little confusing, but it's important to start talking about this, is that you have the high-level strategies. So the strategies that are the corporate level strategies, and then you have strategies within each one of the P as well. So they are not corporate strategies, they are sub-level strategies. They are mixed strategies. So I've been telling you since the beginning that you have the objectives, you have the strategies, and from this comes the tactics. The tactics is a smaller component. It's a day-to-day activities and actions in order to complete your strategies. Your strategies are the big direction, the action that you're taking for within a year in order to achieve your objectives. So it's tactics make up the strategies make up the objectives. Now I throw this in there, not to confuse you, but that will confuse you, is there sub-strategies. So sub-strategies is between strategies and tactics. It's a smaller strategy than a corporate strategy, and it's a strategy at a P level. So now, if we look at this, is we'll have therefore strategies for the product, strategies for the place, strategies for the promotion, and strategies for the price. And then you're going to have strategies for the entire company. So the entire company has corporate strategies. Inside you have 4 blocks, and then you have sub-strategies inside each one of the P block. And in order to fulfill the sub-strategies, then you have the tactics. So I couldn't say that before because that would have confused you, and it's probably still confusing you now, is you have the sub-strategies, the tactics that feeds, or actually that's completes the sub-strategies, and you have the sub-strategies that completes the strategies, and you have the strategies that completes the objective. So it's bigger picture, objectives, strategies, sub-strategies, and tactics. All right. So that's very important because we're going to look at details about the product, and we're going to look at product strategies, if you want, specific to the product. So when we look at those details, is we see that the packaging is a detail, that the brand is not a detail, it's an element of the product mix, not so much of a detail, it's an element. In the warranty, the services, the retail image, and then the financing, and all of these are all kinds of components that are helping with the product mix. So, do you have any questions? I keep on going.
Professor, I have a question.
Yes.
I always think in my head the finance portion of it, but you're not asking that for this project.
Well, I am not, but it's very good that you're saying that, because normally, so because of your question, I go back to this map: objective, strategy, sub-strategies, and then the 4 Ps with the action for each one of them. Then after that, you have the budget. You should have the budget, right? So not only you have the budget, but you also have the finance part of this, which is the break-even analysis, which is going to be an analysis that looks at how many products do we have to sell in order to start making profit. So all of this seems to be maybe a matter of accounting and finance, but it's also a matter of marketing, because you wouldn't want the marketing people to have no or very little accountability of what they're trying to sell, because it's selling is very hard, and it's probably the hardest thing in business is selling. But when you're selling, are you making profit? How much profit are you making? And it's easy to sell things that you don't make profit because it's such a good deal. It's harder to think things that you make more profit. So there will be one section that's going to be about pricing. So it's going to be one class, 1 week, just on pricing. And I will go in more details about that. But that's a very important question, is also the question of budgeting, the question of looking at margins, the question of looking at financing, at investors and financing, and return on investment and all of that, which is the role also of marketers. They may work closely with the accounting and finance people, but that's something that they have to be knowledgeable. Thank you for your question. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
At least for right now. I'll go in more detail when we get more into it. So that will be at the end of pricing. You should have a more clear view. But we're working on product right now, so if I start explaining everything with a more altogether way, it's more realistic, but it's more confusing. So I have to, and that's how the textbook is. Then it goes into chapters, and then you really understand the whole picture once we finish reading all the chapters. But I try to relate as much as I can in between all of these pieces. So here's an example of a situation where people are confused because they hear about the product. So the idea is the product is a generic term. So inside the product, you have the goods, which are the tangible type of product. You have the services, which are the intangible products. Then you have organization, IDs, people, and location. These are the main categories of products that we sell. So you could say, I sell a product, and more specifically, a celebrity. I sell a product, and more specifically, real estate. I sell a product, and more specifically, a BMW car. Okay, so that would be a good. I sell a product, and more specifically, a pizza delivery, Pizza Hut, a service. Okay, so all of the products are the generic terms for specific categories of,
Professor,
yes.
how exactly do you make people a product?
So a politician is a product.
How,
What?
how is that a product?
Because you're selling their brand.
Yeah, you're selling their brand for sure. I mean, you create, you
Okay.
do a study on about who likes you, who doesn't like you, who likes you and why, who doesn't like you and why they don't like you.
It's interesting. I've never thought of a person like a politician, but it makes sense. I've never thought of them as a product rather than an individual. But I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a product. So it's like
Think of a musician.
yeah, a musician, an actor.
That goes onto the scene. They have to market her to get her name out there.
So it's not what they do, or if, for example, we'll take Taylor Swift. Okay,
Yes.
Selling her product of her songs and her image, but you're selling her.
Oh yes.
Yeah, if I can chime in, you're selling her because it's like eventually she's going to move away from music and get into other things. So that's kind of her product changing.
Exactly.
Herself is a thing.
On Tuesday I teach a MBA, which is a music MBA. So it's people that do a Master of Business Administration but specialize in the music industry. The product is the musician and the songs and the albums, right? And the singer if it's a band, or the drummer and the concert. You're selling concerts, all right? You're selling clothing and you're selling the endorsement that they're going to do for United Airlines or for the Beats by Dre, or all of these are products, but more specifically people. And many of you are doing people marketing because you may be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and other social media like YouTube, where you have essentially branding your person. Okay, so people are big. Location is real estate or vacation location, all right? Organization is like season. I have some examples. And IDs is don't drink and drive. Um, lose weight, do diet, or something like this. Okay, any questions? So here's a bunch of celebrities that need marketing, because otherwise people forget. I remember people don't talk about this anymore, but I've been teaching for 26 years. And I would say 20 years ago, if I told students that you had to market Marlboro cigarettes, they are like, no, you don't need to market Marlboro cigarettes. You don't need, because everybody knows Marlboro cigarettes. And essentially everybody smoke. If they smoke anything, they smoke Marlboro cigarettes. And the thing is that there's 10 years that go down the road, 20 years that goes down the road. And if you don't advertise as much anymore, you just disappear. So that's why celebrity, it's kind of interesting because they do have interest in being talked about. And sometimes people say bad advertising is still good advertising, because I don't know to what extent it's true, but I can see that it can be true in a way, because people have to be seen in order to be in people's mind. And so you have to constantly project yourself, otherwise people forget about you. Talking about a musician, I used to like Queen, the band Queen, in the 80s, and I used to like them in the 90s, but I didn't listen to them in the 90s. And then I started to listen to them again. That was in like 2010 or something like that. So there's a period of 15 years where I didn't listen to Queen. And in 2010, 11, when I was starting to listen again to Queen because I was missing the rock, and I had nostalgia for rock because this not rock was disappearing. Now it's almost finished, but it doesn't mean it won't come back. It's possible it's going to come back. So I was listening to this, and my kids who are 19 years old, back then they were like 15 or and young, they were making fun of me because I was listening to Queen, thinking that this was a real old person type of music. And then came the movie Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody. And they went to see the movie, and then they listened to Queen for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, telling me that was the best band. And so I told them, you see, I thought it was one of the best band. Now you think the same. So these are products, and they can be forgotten, and you have to market them in order to put them into people's face, and that's what it is. Brands are the same. I mean, now people talk about electric cars. There's such a thing as electric motorcycle, but it's not as popular as much as the electric cars. And so Harley Davidson, electric Harley Davidson, that's going to be interesting. But so the world's changing, and you have to keep making sure that people know about goods and tangible goods and the innovations. So I was there right as it happened, the Olympic Games in Sydney, and now we're talking about the Olympic Games in Japan. And so all of this has to be marketed. It's event marketing. It's also location marketing. So what is the service? A service is a non-tangible product. No, it's an intangible product. So example of service is FedEx. CSUN is a service, so you can be multiple things at the same time. You can be a service and organization. A restaurant is a service, an airline is a service, an haircut is a service, a doctor, a hospital, a theater, a concert, a teacher, a university. All of these are services. What's interesting with services is sometimes you have some goods that have some element of service, and sometimes you have some service that have some element of good. So if you take the example of a restaurant is almost like a 50-50. It's product as the good and product as a service. So there's like a spectrum from being more of a product or less of a product and more of a service. Services have 4 characteristics. There is the characteristic of intangibility, which means that you cannot touch a service. You can't touch a service such as a concert. The concert is being produced and you cannot sort of touch it. Your haircut is being produced, you can't touch it. So it cannot be stored. You can't store it, and therefore it cannot be kept for a long time. It's consumed at the same time as it is produced, so it's perishable. That's the second characteristic. It's also consumed at the same time as it's produced, so it's inseparable. It means there's someone providing the service, and you cannot remove that saying, I want the service, but without the person producing the service. It's not possible because the service is being produced at one time by someone, and therefore it's inseparable. And it's variable, again, because it's produced by people. And these people are not machines, and therefore they're going to not be able to make it exactly the same every time. So if we use the analogy of concerts again, a singer at a concert is not as good as every time as they perform. There's some variation from one concert to the other because it's produced by people. So services, there's a interaction between the person receiving the services and the person providing the services. Sometimes there's high contact and sometimes there's low contact. So the idea behind this is there's also within services, service which have to be produced by someone, a human, and sometimes there's some service that can be done electronically. So It's like sometimes you have to go to the DMV in order to get a service, and sometimes you can do it online. So if you renew your car registration, you can do it from your computer, and it's essentially just click, 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 and it's a service. It's an online, non-human service. But if you buy a car from overseas or another state, then you have to go to the DMV because they have to do DMV VIN number check, and there's no such a thing as a machine that can do that service. It has to be performed by a person, so it's a higher contact. Obviously, now we're very aware of these issues with contact because of COVID, and so all these things that have high level of contact services have changed tremendously, and sometimes they've disappeared even. I mean, if you get your car towed by AAA, before you would actually sit next to the driver, and with the driver you will go to the location where your car will be towed. Now, because of COVID, you cannot sit with the driver, so that shows that was a high contact level of services, which now unfortunately has disappeared. ServQual is a scale, is a famous scale, the most famous scale that measures services and the performance of services. So you don't have to learn all the details about it, but just know that there is a way to measure service satisfaction, and service satisfaction is measured by a scale called ServQual. So managing the services is important because you don't want people to switch behavior. So you have to be careful of the pricing. People are sensitive to changes of prices and looking for the cheaper prices for their services. The convenience of the services, so is it available for every day, 24 hours? The fact that they are worried when the main element of the service is failing. So you bring your car because you have a puncture tire, and you get your car back, and the tire is still leaking air. That was the main reason that you went there, not because you wanted the inside of your car to be vacuumed, which is an additional service that they gave you when they fixed the tire. Also, an important thing is how do they treat you when there's problems? So because there's oftentimes a interpersonal relationship when you have services. People are sensitive to ethics and fairness and respect and politeness and all of this, which may be not the reason why they go get a haircut, but they may prefer to go one place or another, not just based on the price, but also based on how do these people have made them feel. How do they feel? Services have changed because now, due to electronic, there's a lot of customer involvement in the services. So there's a reduction of people being involved in providing the services because there's more online and through the cell phone services that are being rendered. So you have to be careful that people are getting all the things that they need, that they're getting the attention, that they're getting some service that are individualized, and they still feel that it's personal and not becoming just a random number. And so through the use of technology, you can make it more accurate, you can make it faster, you can make it more available, you can make it in a way where there's less weight. You can also make it in a way where people can be recognized. So if you are calling, the system is going to recognize who you are, and you don't have to give all the information that you used to give because now you are being recognized and they know your preferences, and they even give you options to make it faster because of this recognition. And so all of this is reducing costs, and therefore it becomes less expensive to get those services because there's more and more people using it and less time and people being involved in the process of giving you satisfaction with these services. Okay, so consumers are now able to consume and to get those services by being able to monitor and select themselves and sort of acting as if they were an agent helping you. So they're getting help because it's all sort of automatic, computer self-generated. So it gives you the opportunity. Before you would call, let's say, to buy a shirt, and so you would speak to somebody, they would look at all kinds of different things, they would tell you if there is inventory. Now all of this information is made available for the consumers. So the consumers are able to get all the information and even question answers of questions that they didn't have, but that they are offered answers. So there's more control from the consumers in using technology for services than they used to. And now the consumers are even asking for all of these convenience before making decisions. So services is an industry that is really big. It's a growing industry. Most people are working in services, and I also believe that the consumer dollar value for services is as large, if not larger, than the goods um, um, dollar value being spent. So it's a large chance that you will be working for a service and that you will be working in the satisfaction and customer relationship for services using and dealing with technology in order to provide those services. It's just the new modern era that we live in, and it's only going to go more and more towards that direction. So now we're moving to another concept that is simple, pretty simple, and it's important that you know about it because you will use this in running a business, and you will. It's good to think about this in thinking about your project as well. So there's three layers when you look at a product. So there's the core benefit. So that's the main reason why you buy a product. Then there is the actual benefits, and then there's the augmented benefits. So the core benefit of toothpaste is decay prevention, for example. The actual product will be the brand, it will be the different type of packaging that they will offer, then it would be the additional benefits that they may be offering. So maybe there's like a safe flavor or a freshening of breath flavor. So that's something that you're interested as a second benefit, but the main benefit was the decay, for example. The main benefit could be the breath freshness, and then the decay being the second. This is different for different people. And then you would have maybe the color of the paste, and then you may have some information on the packaging saying that it's recommended by dentists or recommended by the US Dentist Association or something like that. These are the actual product. Then the augmented product is the fact that it's maybe other things as a third layer. The fact that there is a discount for this product. The fact that there is a mail-in rebate that is two for the price of one. The fact that it comes with a toothbrush. The fact that it tells you that there's a video maybe to show you how to use it. The fact that maybe there's some kind of innovation. The fact that it's available from everywhere, not just the pharmacy or something, so it's not as limited. So these layers are very important because you don't come up with the layers, you don't come up with all of the details that goes inside your product, all the within the levels, based on what you, the producer, wants to do, but based on what the consumer wants. So it's the consumer that dictates what you will have inside. So looking again at the second example here is we have a thread mill. And so this treadmill has the core benefit, which is healthy. The actual product is a different, the brand, Proform, I don't know, Nordic Track, I think I know, and therefore there's some advantages in for the brand that are more famous. Maybe there's some kind of high technology information that comes with the product. Maybe there's some features like a quiet deck. Maybe there's different level of inclination. Maybe it folds and becomes really small and is light and stable, and as this kind of things would be the actual product. The augmented product is the fact that they deliver it to you, that it's free delivery, the fact that you could buy it with an Amazon card, the fact that you could be buying it with a warranty, an extended warranty, the fact that it has instructions online to how to use it, the fact that there is financing. Maybe they offer some 2 months for free and financing in order to buy the product. All of these are all the different parts of the product that offers a layer of benefit within 3 levels of layers. So now, what are the product layers of CSUN? What's the core, the actual, and the augmented for CSUN? What would be the core?
Of course, higher education, right?
Yes, core is the education in a specific field. So a business education, for example, in your case. That's right. What would be the actual? What would be the actual product?
The teachers?
Yes, exactly. So the different teachers, the different classes.
What would the degrees that we get be?
So the degree it will be
That part of the core?
Could the degree be the core? Yes. So the degree, the major is the same. Yeah. The degree and the major. That's the core. The actual will be the brand, what CSUN means, the different professors, the different classes. And what would be the augmented product?
Like the other like outdoor activities, like the
Yes,
gym.
so like the gym, like the health services,
Yeah, exactly.
like the finance, like the career placement, like the alumni. So all of these will be the augmented products. Okay. So when you sell, therefore, a product, being a person or an event or whatever, you have to think about these layers like an onion shape. What's the core and what are the other benefits? And you can think about it, but best is to research what your target think in terms of that layer. Okay, so that's always what's very difficult is the person that is right is the customer. The customer is always right. Is the customer always right? No, but they are more often right than not. So you have to sort of really think that. So therefore, when you have business questions, is you have to ask the customers. They decide. Then there's 4 types of products. There's convenience, shopping, specialty, and unsought. So unsought is the more complicated one. So convenience are these products that you buy frequently. They are inexpensive. They are available everywhere, and they are mass communicated. That's convenience. So a candy or batteries, all of these are convenient. Now the shopping products are, by comparison, something that you don't buy as often, that you perceive is higher price, and then you look at different location to make decisions because not everywhere is the same. So if you buy a car, you go to various dealership. If you buy a oven, a washing machine, a TV, you go to look at different stores. Clothing is the same thing. Then the third category is specialty. So it's even more rare that you buy than the shopping. The prices are definitely higher. You see this product having unique characteristics. So you couldn't buy them from anywhere. And you only see few locations, and you may even have a relationship to a specific location almost as much as the product that you're buying. So if you're thinking about a car again, car was a shopping good, but car can also be a specialty good. It depends on which car. I guess if it's a Toyota, it's probably a shopping good for most people. But if it's a Mercedes Benz and I don't know, a Lotus, it's a McLaren, it's obviously something that you will really look for, not just what car you're buying, but from which dealer, and you will really pay attention to which dealer you go to. Like, I mean, I have the example of Rolex as a watch. There's not too many Rolex dealer, but there's quite a number, and then people will try to buy a Rolex from not every dealer, but a specific dealer where they will want to buy their Rolex from that dealer. So the experience of buying from that dealer, the belief, and possibly the relationship and the research that people do before they make purchases make this product called specialty products. Then the last one, which is more complicated than the three that I just discussed, because unsought products are within several groups. There's the unsought that you didn't think because it's essentially a product that does not apply to you. So it's like contact lenses. If you're someone who's blind, you're probably not interested in contact lenses for the most part. If you're someone who is blind, maybe something that would have to do with your gender, possibly like high heels, stilettos. If you're a man, you probably don't think about buying stilettos, at least for yourself. So it's unsought. It's like if you're 20 years old, not married, and you have no kids. I don't think you think about buying diapers, baby diapers. Baby diapers is really something that you only think about buying when you have a baby. Otherwise, there's no need for baby diapers. So it's unsought. Um, so there is unsought because you don't need, and it would not make too much sense for you to be interested in that. It's like um, life insurance. When you are 15 years old or 10 years old, you don't think about life insurance because it's not something that you worry about. Um, that's one type of unsought. The other type, which is the most common, is it's unsought because you don't know much about it. It's not something that you see people around you know much about and consume much. So you have to sort of sometimes teach everything about it to people, or sometimes you just have to remind them about it. So I my family has a cognac production um, company, and for many people, cognac is an unsought product, and it's very interesting with cognac because it is very culturally um, connected. Like for example, if you're someone who is Vietnamese, you cognac is not an unsought product. It's very common within the Vietnamese people to drink cognac. If you're an African American, cognac is not unsought. You don't have to tell African American much about this product because they know it. But if you are a mainstream American, maybe it's more of an unsought product because people will know vodka, tequila, whiskey, but they won't know much about cognac because it's sort of culturally bounded. And so that's why unsought is important is when is there's so many products that are unsought. And so you have to constantly tell the people about the benefits, the three layers that I just discussed, the different brands, the what are the habits, and then you can use celebrities to make them more sought after, and you can use price to give incentives for people to want to try something that they didn't think about. You have to sort of motivate people for unsold products, and but the like the diapers These are unsought, and even if you motivate someone to buy diapers, if they don't need it, it doesn't do nothing. Now we're talking about the product mix decision. And so the product mix has a number of definitions inside to understand what they are. The first one is the product mix with. The product mix with is how many types of categories do you have in your product mix. So you have like breakfast cereal, for example. So you have like corn, you have wheat, and you have rice. So that's your wheat is like 3 type of grain. So the width is 3. What about the depth? The depth is the variation within each one of this category. So we have 1 type of rice cereal, we have 2 type of wheat, and we have 5 type of corn or breakfast cereal. So the depth varies within the different types and the different variations within the types. The length is the sum of all of these. So you have a length of 2 products if you have only 2 products altogether, and a length of 20 if you add all the variations within the depth and you just count them. The consistency is the connection between these products. So it's easy to see a connection between a breakfast cereal being corn, wheat, and rice. But then if I was adding beef jerky, suddenly it's not consistent because beef jerky is like meat. It's something else than the breakfast cereal. Okay, so consistency is usually you want to have some consistency in your product line. If you expand your product line, then you will be discussing about the consistency of your expansion. So let's look at some examples. Here we have general foods, different product category. And so the question I could ask you is how many, so what's the width? How many products in the width of general foods? What's the width?
6.
6. So the width is desserts, coffee, cereal, pet foods, beverages, and household products. Thank you for responding. But then I'd say, what's the depth of pet foods?
4.
So it's 4, exactly. So the width and the depth. And so products are discussed in terms of width and in terms of depth. Now, if I was asking you what is the length, you don't have to do that, but it would be counting all of these statements inside the table and just looking at it like that, I would say there's about 20, length of 20. And the consistency, dessert, coffee, cereal, pet foods, beverages, household products. So here, the consistency is not perfectly consistent because you have things that you can eat, things that you can drink, things for people, things for animals. And then there's even household products, which are very unrelated to the other type of products. So the consistency is not so consistent and there's variations. Now, obviously General Foods is a huge company and it's not surprising that they don't have very close consistency, but they are actually starting to expand in totally a new and different product category, which means that they're using the diversification type of strategies, and that's okay. Now, the product line decision is therefore to grow number of products in your product line. So to grow is you can grow the width by having new product categories. You can also grow by having variations within the existing products inside. You can have a downward stretch and an upward stretch. So product line extension. upward stretch. That's the sub-strategies. I was telling you we're going to talk about sub-strategies. If you upstretch, it's so upward will be saying, for example, that you're selling a higher, more expensive products. So you have like a medium price, and now you're going to have a high price product. So it's like Toyota making Lexus. That's an upward stretch. From a lower, they go to a higher. You also can have a downward stretch. So it's like yeah, Armani making Armani Exchange. That's a downward stretch. You could also do both, where you have higher prestige product and lower prestige products. So you'll have upward and downward sub-strategies. Yeah, different cars from Mercedes-Benz. And the idea is that you have variation of prices, and you have variation of targets, and you have a product line extension. So this product line goes from, and actually it's quite amazing what Mercedes can do. It is possible, I would say, that they are the only one pretty much within the brand of Mercedes, because there's companies that can do that, totally changing the brand. And that's not easy, but it's possible. And therefore, Maybach, the S-Class, the E-Class, the C-Class, the A-Class, and the Smart, although the Smart is a different company and Maybach is trying very hard to be a different company, but it's hard to miss the Mercedes. All of these cars, there's a huge differential of prices between them, and it's all trying to be consistent within the one brand of car. So Giorgio Armani is quite amazing in terms of downward stretch. The amount of downward stretch that they do, obviously, it is very good financially, because when you're a very expensive brand of luxury, you don't sell that many products, and yet your reputation can be very high, and therefore you're losing and missing on the opportunity of not selling many more products. Obviously, these many more products that you will sell are going to be much more inexpensive and with a smaller profit margin, but you will sell in such a large quantity that you can offset the fact that you won't make as much money per unit just based on the quantity that you will be selling. So Giorgio Armani, like I was saying, has many different downward extensions. So when you, do you have any questions? Anyone has any questions? No. Okay, so people buy products, and when they buy products, they buy the brand, but they also buy the attributes of this product. So the attributes are focused on the quality, this perception of being lower or higher quality, the elements of what are the feature, the functionality of the product that I'm buying, but also the image and the design and the style. So if it's a good, the design is very obvious. Is how does it look? The atmosphere, if it would be a service, for example. Designs are very important because people perceive innovation from changes, and they make a decision based on what they see and what they feel. So having the right design is very important because that's going to make people feel right. It's more likely that they will buy. The feel is also influenced, therefore, by the packaging. So people don't only buy the content of the product; they buy also the surroundings of the product. So the packaging is key. They buy with their eyes, and sometimes they get taken advantage because they believe too much what they see and interpret too much what they see as being something else than what it really is. But for the most part, you can take advantage of them because they are just very sensitive to how they feel. So the packaging is important, but also the logo is important, the colors, the images, the touch and feel, but there's other elements such as the UPC code, which is this scanner code that you need to have on the product in order to help with the inventory. So here's a brand of beer that became very famous, not only because they were at the very beginning of the craft beer movement, but also, I believe, because of their packaging, which was very striking at the time and going against the grain compared to the other brand of beer. So here, it's more of an attention getter. It's more of has a strong emotion attachment, which is very important for craft beers because for the most part, those craft beer were from producers that were unknown, small, family owned, and therefore you couldn't think about the reputation that they had and the identity and all that. It was just sort of winging it, try to be as original, as authentic as possible. So people had to look at, evaluate based on what they could see, and what they could see was more important than ever, being the design of the label and the bottle and so forth. So Ballast Point did extremely well with their packaging to be easy to memorialize and remember, get attention, and give also a belief that it's made in small editions, not too many, and that it's authentic, and it goes against more of the corporate image that was focusing on a more traditional way of presenting. This was an innovative way of presenting. Obviously, now if you look at the craft beer presentation format, all of them are away from a conservative traditional, because everybody took the leadership of Ballast Point in some way, copying that idea of striking and being more entertaining and more artistic than the other one, that everybody did that, being artistic. So eventually, this is not something that really can separate you from the crowd, and then you have to come up with something else beside trying to be artistic in the design of your label and so forth. So here's an example, and suddenly you may say, hey, why don't we do something different, where we use the packaging as an element in order to make it attractive. So Pringles, obviously, is a great example on how they use potato chips inside a tube. This didn't exist before. It's the idea that people want to have the same chip every time they reach inside the container, and that it's sort of reassuring that you can get the same chip time after time. And this consistency shows that the brand has a real good control in the production, and therefore people know what to expect. So there's some reassurance. And also the chip doesn't come broken, so therefore you end up with all these chips being protected. So it's like a benefit for the consumption, it's a benefit for the ritual of the consumption, but it's also a benefit for the quality of the product that doesn't deteriorate as much. Go-Gurt is also a packaging evolution and revolution, because it's essentially understood what the kids wanted. So the kids did not want to eat a yogurt the traditional way with a spoon, and they wanted to be able to just suck on the tube, the paste. That's why a few days ago I was telling you about Califia Farm could think about a different packaging, and you could think about how they could deliver the product, and if they were to deliver it for kids, is I think all of these new type of milk, the rice milk, the cashew milk, the almond milk, and all of this, they all come in the same container as dairy products, as milk from the dairy milk. And it's possible that maybe there could be some kind of differentiation in using a new style of packaging. and I was thinking they could do something even would have to do with diversification. Would have a diversification of making products like fruit, fruit yogurt. So there would be fruit yogurt without milk, and there would be fruit yogurt. And doing fruit yogurt for adult, what would be the best packaging? Maybe it's not the traditional packaging as we know. Is maybe there's an innovation that needs to be done for the fruit yogurt fruit for adults, where the packaging will also be part of the way to eat the product. So not only you want to give people a solution to get fruits without having to eat fruits, but you also want to give a benefit. So that's like part of the actual product through the packaging and the way you would consume it through this new innovative packaging. So labeling is very important. So you have to think about the label in order to have your product being recognized, easy to understand what it's about, and at the same time promote. So here's an example of a good label where you can see it's tomato soup, you can see the brand, you can see the ingredients, you can see all the information that you would look in just one glance. Here's a bottle that I from one of my company, and I want to show you the one on the left, which is the wrong bottle. Why is it wrong? Because if we go back to the principle, identify, describes, and promotes. Here, the brand was hard to read. So a lot of the people will actually not go through the effort of reading up and down. So I show you the picture of the before and after, where you can see the difference between the two. Before, we made the mistake of setting the brand in a way that it's not easy to read, hard to remember. It was printed on the bottle, so there was a bad contrast. People didn't understand what this was about, because even this bottle was not very typical of a spirit, a bottle where you would find spirits, but was more like a wine bottle to some extent. So that was also misleading people. Then it said Cabernet, so it's a wine bottle. It looks like a wine bottle. It says Cabernet, therefore Cabernet is a wine. But Cabernet is usually a red wine, and this was like a light amber color, so it made no sense. I didn't make the decision for this design. I was essentially being a good partner, and one of my partners was very much in charge of making all of these changes. And so I felt bad, but I had to go through the process of working it out. So that didn't work out. This product was a disaster. And then it was converted into a new packaging, where the packaging has been very well received. In fact, as oftentimes being looked up and copied by competitors, and it fits better the image that we want the brand to have, and also the image that the consumer are looking for when buying a product of that sort. So making changes in terms of packaging is very important. The inside, the content has not changed. In fact, we've won a number of times best products, the highest rating for this product. So the product, there was nothing wrong, but people were imagining the product being wrong based on what they perceive from the packaging, which was really sad. So what a lot of brands do is the opposite, is they sell a very mediocre product with an amazing packaging, because people buy more the packaging and the feel of the packaging than they buy what's really inside. Mostly what's inside, or what the core product is, something that they don't really know how to judge very well. And it's hard to judge because it's very subjective. So they try to use more objective components, and therefore the look is a more objective component to evaluate when you're looking at purchasing a bottle that you don't know what's inside.